The year is 1692. My name is Mercy Hobbs, and I live in Salem Village, Massachusetts. I am a seamstress by trade, and I hem dresses by the firelight most evenings. My husband Thomas is a cooper on the North Road, and we have been married 6 months today. It was a beautiful ceremony, but it rained all day. He carried me over every puddle on the road home from the church. He is such a good man.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
By that winter, I still told myself everything was as it had always been. There was still laughter, still haggling, still children playing. But there were gaps. Stalls that used to be full, now empty. Faces missing that had been there every week for as long as I could remember. Nobody said their names out loud anymore. At the far end of the market, I saw Hannah Marsh, our neighbor from 3 doors down. I had taught her to hem the previous winter. She had been a girl then. She was something closer to a young woman now. I smiled and raised my hand. She looked away. I lowered it. She was 14 and moody as the weather. I thought nothing more of it and moved on down the market. I didn't know it then, but that look was not shyness. It was guilt. In January 1692, 2 girls in Salem Village begin to have fits. Betty Paris is 9 years old. Her cousin Abigail Williams is 11. They live in the home of Reverend Samuel Paris, the village minister. The fits are violent and strange. Convulsions, screaming, the sensation of being bitten and pinched by invisible hands. The local physician William Griggs examines the girls and declares them bewitched. By February, the girls are naming names, and the village is listening. The legal foundation is spectral evidence. A witness may testify that the accused appeared to them in a dream or vision and caused them harm. The accused cannot disprove a dream. There is no mechanism by which innocence can be established. The machinery is ready. It only needs a name. Thomas and I walked up the hill together that evening. It was cold, the kind of cold that gets into your coat and stays there. Others were ahead of us on the road, dark shapes moving upward through the gray, and we fell in behind them without a word. Everyone knew not to attend would attract eyes of suspicion. I had been thinking about Martha Carrier for days. I knew her. Not well, but enough. I had seen her at market. She was not a soft woman, but she was not a wicked one either. Not in any way I had ever witnessed. And yet, the girls had named her. The court had heard the evidence. The verdict had been handed down. I told myself to trust the court, but my feet were heavy on that hill. I couldn't make Martha Carrier a witch, no matter how hard I tried. We reached the top of the hill. The executioner stepped forward. She knew what they wanted from her, and she refused to give it. There was nothing left to say, so she said nothing. I looked away. But you cannot unhear. And then people just started walking. Back down the hill toward the meetinghouse, just like they were leaving the market. The meetinghouse was warm after the cold of the hill. People filed in around us, finding their seats, greeting each other the way you do after a Sunday service. I sat down beside Thomas and said nothing. I could not understand it. We had just watched a woman die. Then all of a sudden, Hannah Marsh stood and pointed directly at me. I kept waiting for someone in the room to speak up. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. I had never been cold like that before. I pulled my coat up over my nose until only my eyes were uncovered. I was awake. I just wasn't there. I was with others. All the women that had been accused along with me, with Thomas at home sitting alone by the fire. In the morning, the jailer opened the cell door. He looked at me like I was an item on a list. He told me Hannah had confessed and I could go home. He left the door open and walked away. I stared at the open door. I could go home, but my body wouldn't move. Months passed, and Thomas brought me back to life. Slowly, the ordinary things started to feel ordinary again. We went back to market day. He carried the basket, and we walked slowly. And then I saw her. The color left her face as if you saw a ghost. Then Hannah nervously looked to the ground and kept walking. Then I turned to Thomas, nodded, and we moved on down the market. Later, back at our fire, Thomas is in his chair. I picked up my needle and I went back to work. That is what you do. You go back to work, and you carry what happened inside, and most days you don't let it show. I have stopped trying to work it out. Some things don't resolve. You just learn to carry them. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. That is the part that should stay with you.